All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack something that, well, most of us consume every single day, but we rarely stop to think about on a biological level. I'm talking about caffeine. Specifically, we're going to look at the profound physiological impact of caffeine and how our fundamental personality types, whether we're extroverts or introverts, actually dictate how our bodies react to it.
So let me ask you a question. Does coffee help or hinder you? It sounds like a super simple question, right? But the answer actually holds the central mystery of today's Explainer. You know, why does a morning brew make one person an absolute powerhouse ready to totally crush the day, while it turns another person into a jittery, unfocused mess? It turns out, it's not just about building up a tolerance. It is fundamentally about how you are biologically wired.
Section 1. The Caffeine Divide.
We so often treat coffee as this one-size-fits-all magic potion for productivity and energy. But the science shows us that caffeine is anything but that. Our vastly different reactions to stimulation aren't just psychological preferences or, quirky behavioral traits. It actually comes down to neurophysiology. We're talking about the biological and neurological origins of how our bodies naturally require and process stimulation from the environment around us. This stuff is hardwired right into our systems.
Section 2. The Extrovert's Energy Deficit.
Let's think about extroverts for a second. They naturally gravitate towards high-energy environments, right? Parties, massive social events, places with loud noises. And why is that? It's because they actually operate with a natural energy deficit. They possess a fundamental biological need to seek out external stimulation literally just to reach their optimal level of engagement. Basically, they're looking for the outside world to wake their brains up. And this is exactly where that beautiful morning cup of coffee comes to the rescue. Because of this built-in physiological deficit, extroverts frequently rely on external stimulants like caffeine to kind of bridge that biological energy gap and jumpstart their neurophysiology for the day ahead.
Section 3. The Introvert's Overload Risk.
Now, the biological contrast here is absolutely striking. While extroverts possess a biological need to seek out and increase stimulation, introverts actually perform better when they can lower their level of stimulation. It's literally the Goldilocks principle of neurophysiology. Everyone is just trying to find an internal environment that feels just right, but they're starting from very, very different biological baselines.
Because their baseline of internal stimulation is already humming pretty high, introverts naturally seek out quiet spaces. And they do this because they are highly prone to what researchers call overloading. If their environment becomes too intense, too loud, or just too demanding, their neurophysiology essentially gets flooded. So they aren't trying to be antisocial. Their bodies are just biologically driven to avoid that sensory overload.
Section 4. Caffeine and task performance. So how does this neurophysiological divide actually impact our daily lives? Let's say you're taking a timed test or doing some heavy quantitative data analysis. For extroverts, caffeine works exceptionally well. It pushes their lower baseline up and totally helps their performance. But for introverts, caffeine actually hinders them during these exact same speeded or quantitative tasks. It takes their already high internal stimulation and pushes it straight into that zone of cognitive overload we were just talking about.
Section 5. Finding your optimal stimulation.
This sensitivity has very real, everyday consequences. Just to put it in perspective, researchers noted one extreme example of this sensitivity, an introvert being completely unable to consume coffee late in the day without it severely disrupting their sleep. So while an extrovert might be able to down a double espresso right after dinner and sleep perfectly soundly, an introvert's neurophysiology is so sensitive that the exact same cup throws off their entire sleep cycle.
Which leads us to one final, really important question. Are you fueling your neurophysiology or are you just overloading it? The next time you reach for that second or third cup of coffee, think about your own biogenic nature. Are you an extrovert, giving your brain the external jumpstart it biologically craves? Or are you an introvert, inadvertently pushing yourself way past your optimal level of performance and into a state of overload? Understanding the physiological impact of caffeine on your specific personality type might just be the absolute key to unlocking your best, most focused self. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to ponder that question with your next cup of coffee.